Welcome to the Lady Leadership Podcast. Our guest today is Cat Dunn, a multi-talented individual who's journeyed from performing arts to corporate expertise and entrepreneurship. Cat's passion led her to start her own virtual assistant business and to become an online business manager, helping entrepreneurs reclaim their time and find success. With her inspiring story and valuable insights, Cat is here to share her wisdom on coaching, entrepreneurship, and finding your genius zone. Hi, Cat. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm very excited.
Now, is that a British accent I hear?
Yes, it is. I'm originally from a place called Sunderland in England.
I did live in the UK for 8 years. And I do know the name Sunderland, and I'm just trying to think whereabouts in the UK.
So we're in like the northeast corner. So we're below Newcastle upon Tyne.
Yep.
And kind of to the right of Manchester. So not very well known, but for your audience, we do have a documentary on Netflix called Sunderland Till I Die about my football team.
Yes.
Obviously, if you don't like football, you might think, but it's actually really interesting insight into the city itself and how the football actually affects the entire city.
Oh, right. Wow. Yeah, because I mean, football's massive in the UK, isn't it?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
Yeah. Very good. Well, how long have you been in Australia then?
I first came about 7 years ago. My sister moved here and said, you have to come over for your 30th birthday. It's the most amazing country in the world. And I was like, okay. And then as soon as I got off that plane, I was like, how do I live here? This place is insane. And then I was back and forth a lot. And I've been here officially, I'd say, since December 2019.
Yeah, right. Oh, well, that's good. You got here before COVID. Well,
yes, I basically got here, just before it I was living in New Zealand and I came over and then kind of got stuck. But if I'm going to get stuck anywhere during COVID, I'm glad it was Australia.
Yeah. Whereabouts are you based? Whereabouts are you based?
So I'm in Melbourne right now.
Yeah, the most locked down city.
Oh, yes. What a great title to have.
That's right. So just tell us a little bit about your journey then, Kat, and how you went from being, sort of a performer, jazz hands, and to working in the corporate world and then eventually starting your own business as well.
I wanted to be an actress from a really young age, but it was one of those things of I didn't really understand how you become an actress. And Sunderland is a working class city. It's not really a city where I felt like I could dream big. And I just started appearing in like local pantomimes. Pantomime, if no one knows, is kind of like it's a strange kind of play we have around Christmas, which is based on a famous story like Cinderella or Beauty and the Beast. There's a dame and there's always like big songs, and it's a very interesting performance. If you're ever in the UK, go check out a pantomime at Christmas. And then basically when I went to study, I just picked whatever musical theatre or performing arts course I could find because I just thought it would be fun. I didn't really think much about my future when I was younger. I just wanted to dance and sing. So I basically did degrees in musical theatre and just performed. But then as soon as I left, I kind of lost faith in my own abilities because everyone in the class was better than me, or I felt like I wasn't ready to move to London and start a career because I felt like the only way to be a performer was to move to London.
Right.
So I ended up getting like jobs as dancers, as a dancer and things like that. But eventually it kind of didn't pay the bills. So I went to a recruitment agency and said, can I please have a job? And they said, the only thing we can give you is a call center role because you're not qualified for anything else. It's like, oh, wonderful. Thank you. That was a waste of money getting that degree. And so basically I started in a call center, which I absolutely hated. I do not like speaking on the phone. And it was within the NHS in England, which is the National Health Service. Oh. And I basically spent the next few years just working jobs within the NHS. Yeah. I did data entry and admin, and I eventually worked at a hospital for the chief executive, which was an interesting role. And that's where I learned about communications and marketing, and I got really interested in that. And so basically, I then moved into working in universities and got to be more involved in the communication side, like starting the social media channels, writing newsletters, and working with the students, which I absolutely loved. I loved working in a university environment. And then I decided to come to Australia once my dream job was kind of wrapping up, which was in communications, and came on a working holiday. And when I was here, I was so lucky to get a couple of jobs in the same kind of area. I worked in marketing for an agricultural company, which was very interesting to learn. I knew nothing about agriculture. And then I became a project management coordinator within a not-for-profit, which was really interesting to manage a team. And then I kind of didn't really know what to do with my life because I really wanted to live here, and England just didn't feel like home anymore. And so I came back again, and it was, well, I went to New Zealand and worked in corporate for communications as well. And then when I came here just before COVID, it was really hard to get a job because obviously everyone needed a job. And so I ended up luckily getting a job as an executive assistant, which I've done before. And obviously we had to work from home because of COVID.
Yeah.
And after about a year in the job, I started to like wonder what I could do, but it didn't really light me up. I didn't like taking meeting minutes and all those things. And the area I was working in, I didn't know that well. It didn't light me up. And I really wanted to start a business and had no idea what to do or how I could do it. And somebody literally just said to me, why don't you become a virtual assistant? And I'd never heard it before.
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean? They're like, basically you could do what you're doing now, but you get to pick the tasks you do and pick the people you work for. And I was like, wow, light bulb. So I went online and Googled VA, what do I do? How do I do this? Met with a variety of different institutes and coaches, and met a coach who I absolutely loved and got on well with, and learned all the kind of sides of business you don't know, how to get an ABN, what do you do with tax, how do you invoice?
Yeah.
And there, yeah, basically I signed my first client before I really got my contracts in place or insurance sorted. So I kind of had to really like backtrack and do that. So I started as a side hustle alongside my corporate role. And then when I found I couldn't like scale any further because I had too much on my plate, I decided to go all in and just jumped into my business. And yeah, that was 2.5 years ago.
Nice. And I really like that you scaled whilst you're also doing your full-time job as well, to kind of, test it out and see how it worked, and, see whether you liked it, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And just kind of, it was test the waters and also have that financial security. And I didn't hate my job at all. I loved the people I worked with. It was just wasn't really fulfilling anymore. And obviously the more I got to work with different clients and do different tasks outside of that, then I started to find the path I wanted to go down.
Yeah, that made it more interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
Have you dabbled back then in the singing and dancing space? Have you been tempted to hear?
Yeah, I miss it terribly. I was at an event last night and a woman got on stage and sang, and she does a one-woman show, and I was so jealous. I was seething because I was like, why am I doing that anymore? When I was in corporate in England, I did a lot of acting. I used to do community shows, so I didn't get paid, but I was in some very big performance pieces in York, which is another city in England, which is where they filmed some Harry Potter. If people want to know what that is. So I did it all the time. I didn't really get paid. I just loved it. And then I started writing, and my plays got produced in different theatres in England, and I got the writing bug. So I did a master's in that.
Yeah.
And I actually found a bit like I preferred to watch other people perform my pieces because they were better at it than me. But I definitely do miss it. So what I did was I've got a very big love for horror films, like horror world. I go to horror conventions, and I discovered in York that you could actually work as a professional scare actor. So you get paid to scare people. Right. And I'd never heard of that before. I thought, well, I'm an actor. I love horror. So that sounds like a dream role. So I started doing that. So I became a professional scare actor, which I still do to this day. Usually I'm only hired around October, unless you just want to hire me for a private party, which might be a bit strange, but also very fun. So yeah, I do that. So that's a way to dip my toe in, but obviously that's a very niche area of performing. So something I definitely would love to do again, but I cannot do an Australian accent. So I'm not quite sure who would hire me, to be honest.
Oh, well, look, I don't know that you've got to have an Australian accent to act over here, because I think there's loads of actors. So I did see something on LinkedIn about someone auditioning people for acting, and so I'll forward it to you after this.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, I am on Star now, but I find it's a lot of jobs to do with like social media and like advertise on TikTok, and I'm like, I'd rather be like in a play or like do a model shoot or something.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. And so tell me then about like just what challenges did you face when you transitioned from, say, a 9 to 5 to running your own business?
I think a lot of people go into their own business assuming they get to sit on a beach in Bali with a laptop on their knee and drink a cocktail and do 2 hours of work a day, and they just roll in it. Like, I kind of did have that skewed opinion of like having my own business would give me so much free time. And I
Yeah.
basically went from working 9 to 5 to working 24 hours a day because there's so much to do when you first start your business. You're wearing all the hats, you learn all the things, you're trying to do all the client work. So it was a struggle. It was a struggle to get everything done. And that's one of the reasons I had to give up the corporate role, because I literally had no time left in the day to do anything else. I was just working nonstop.
Mm.
So that was a big struggle. And I still struggle with it now, I'll be honest. Like I tend to put my clients before myself a lot. So obviously my cup ends up being a bit empty. So I'm good with time management, but I almost prioritize other people's needs before my own a lot. So that's something I have to balance with a lot. And the struggle was also, I loved working from home, and that's one of the reasons I wanted my own business. I didn't want to go back to an office,
Yeah.
but it became really lonely
Yes,
because,
right. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, my family and friends are so supportive, but they don't want to sit and talk about business with me. They don't understand what I'm talking about. They're on totally different, they do different careers anyway.
Yeah.
So I really thought, like, how on earth do I do this? How do I get out of the house? Or how do I start connecting? Particularly because I started during COVID, so it was harder to really meet people.
Mm.
So that's when I started looking at the communities and started building networks, and that really helped. And it's like it takes a village to do anything, and
Yeah.
more so in business, because nobody else quite understands what you're going through like another business owner.
Yeah. Tell me a little bit about that then. So I think we met through One Roof, which we're both members of, which is a great community. And for listeners, it's a community for entrepreneurs and small business owners to connect in. They provide a lot of services and a lot of motivation, a lot of talks and training and events, etc. So that's certainly one. What are some of the other places that you connected in, or how did you create your community, so to speak?
Yeah, One Roof's amazing. So I found One Roof through a client. I hadn't heard of One Roof, so I'm very grateful to that client for telling me. The coach I worked with when I became a VA, I'll give her a shout out, Seed Virtual Assistants. I've basically been with her the entire time. As in, I've moved away from VA work, but I'm still in that community.
Yep.
So the VA she brings in, I get to be around them as they start their business or as they change direction. A lot of us transition to become experts in particular systems or become OBMs or do different things. So I'm still in that community now. So that's nice to see. Like, and she gets to, see virtual assistant.
Yep.
So I'm currently in a mastermind with her because I've just like leveled up with her and she's leveled up herself. So watching each other grow over the past 2 years has just been fantastic. So I'll probably remain in that community forever as well, just because it's wonderful. And I recently joined Business Chicks, and that's interesting as well. So obviously similar to One Roof, but there's actually I think there's more employees in that one as well. So it's interesting to kind of get that different view of like business owner versus employee and support each other in different ways.
Yeah.
Hoping to get to review more events of that. But my biggest community is my sisterhood, which is a coaching program run by Erica Kramer, also known as the Queen of Confidence. I discovered personal development a few years ago, and it literally changed my life. I don't think I'd have my business. I don't think I'd have anything that I have in my life right now without that. That is the biggest community that I have.
Yeah. Erica Kramer, Queen of Confidence, sisterhood.
Yes.
Great. Tell me a little bit more about that then.
So I can't remember how I really found her. I think it was through Spotify when I actually discovered podcasts 23 years ago. And she was such a character. She was like pink and wearing leopard print and like swearing, and she was American and Puerto Rican, and she had such a vibe. And I was like, oh my God, who is this woman? And then when I started listening to her, she talked all about like building up your self-esteem, how to build confidence, talking about the women that she supports. And I'd worked with therapists and stuff in the past and counselors, but I'd never really heard about coaching. And I wasn't quite sure what it was. So I started binging her podcast to figure out what it is, like what coaching is and what personal development and how she could possibly help me. And I just became obsessed with her message. I became obsessed with everything she was teaching. And I was like, I think this is it. This is going to help me build the life of my dreams. I wasn't in a great situation at the time. And I joined her sisterhood. And the next day I had to go to an event where they were all there and everyone was hugging and dancing. And I thought, oh my God, what on earth is this? And
where was that? Whereabouts was that?
So that was in Melbourne. She's
Yeah,
actually based
great.
in Melbourne, which
Yeah,
was lucky for me as well.
yeah.
And then like part of that, we have a private Facebook group, so you can go in there and just talk to each other. And over the years, I've got to know different people in there. Obviously, some people have left, some people have joined, some people have been in there for 5 years, which shows you obviously the
Mm.
fact that you can still grow within these communities. And yeah, when I look back at the person who walked into that event on the first day, I don't recognize that person. I've
Yeah.
changed so much with the support and love of working with her and her husband Hamish and my sisters in the community. It is life changing.
Wow. It sounds, and there are people I think that you connect with at the right time, and there's something in their messaging
Yeah,
around that kind of hits you, and you're like, oh yeah, this is what I've been looking for.
yeah,
And
exactly.
confidence for women is something that I hear over and over, and women being able to, step into who they are, put aside, your upbringing, put aside how you might have been treated, how your parents treated you, whatever, and then really just kind of step in to your own self with like love for yourself, really, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree. Such a big area for women. And I had such a sister wound. Growing up, I was the tomboy, and all my friends were male, to be honest. And I just had such an impression of what women are like or would be like, and that they'd have nothing in common with me, that they judge me, that they wouldn't like me. So it took a
Mm,
long time to overcome that, and being in that community really healed that to the point now where I'm just so surrounded by women. I work with women, my coaches are women, and nothing against men, obviously. It's just a lot of women are coming into my life, and it's not something I ever would have predicted for myself. And
mm.
it's just been fun. There's so many amazing women out there, and I just want every woman to know, like, she's just amazing. I can do anything. Like, if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, yeah. That's really beautiful. And it just goes to show, like, find those people, find those groups, try things out. You must have been probably really nervous that first day going to that first event, because I think sometimes that can be hard. But I think also, like, if you do that, then I used to hate going to events years ago, and then I sort of just made a rule for myself: just speak to one person, or if I don't like it, I can go home, or just show up. I think have a go,
Oh yeah, definitely. Like
take a few.
yeah, I've always been a pretty confident person, but the time when I joined, like my confidence was just absolutely shot. I was just a shadow of my former self. And on
Mm.
that day, I was dressed all in black. I was hiding behind a pillar. I was totally just didn't want to be seen. I didn't want to take up any space.
Yeah, and I think, like, we didn't really talk about it, but it's difficult to move countries and to be located somewhere else, and to have to make new friends, and not have, say, that old support network around you, people who've known you for years and just accept you for who you are, and meeting people, and impressions and all of that. Like, that's tough as well.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's harder to make friends as you get older. It's
Mm.
definitely like I've struggled with that, and I'm lucky that when I moved here, my sister's already living here, and she has a wonderful now husband, and his family were just wonderful and took me in, which I didn't expect. It was so nice to be surrounded by their love and support. But yeah, it was just me and the person I was dating at the time, and I didn't have anybody. I found it. I was like, how on earth do you make friends, especially during COVID when you couldn't go out?
Mm.
I definitely think my business is one of the things that got me through because it forced me to have to interact with people. Even if they weren't friends and were like clients, at least it was like, oh my God, there's another person. I can speak to this person. I can start connecting. But yeah, it was definitely hard to put myself out
Yeah, yeah. Well done, you.
there. Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit then about being an online business manager and your business.
So it's something that happened quite naturally and by accident in a way. Like I'd heard of virtual assistant and was just trucking along doing that. And one of the clients I was working for, as time went on, started to give me more and more responsibilities.
Yeah.
And then when she announced me to her community, she called me her online business manager. And I was basically, what's that? And what do you mean? Well, I'm virtual assistant. And she explained to me, well, actually, no, these tasks you're doing here, they're more strategic focused or they're a higher level. And no, you're my business manager, you're running my business for me. And I was like, oh, I almost didn't realize I was doing that. So as I investigated further, I realized that I was actually becoming an OBM for many of my clients because
Mhm.
obviously I had the expertise from working in corporate for so many years. And I really like the idea of doing less of the doing, so to speak, and more of the planning, the execution, the higher level. particularly when it came to managing clients' communities or managing their team or managing their launches for products. And I prefer to work with fewer clients for a longer term because it's really hard to get to know someone's business in just a few months or with a few tasks, basically.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of clients now who've been with me since the very start, which is amazing. And we've just naturally progressed our relationship. But, at one point when I was a VA, I had 10 clients in a month and it was so hard to navigate. And I was like,
Yeah. Wow.
it was just too much. And yes, I could go in and get the things done, but it just felt very rushed and you just kind of pass it on. Whereas with an OBM, you can sit there and you really like analyze the business, get behind the scenes and see how you can best support the business to basically reach more people and scale and increase the revenue.
Yeah. And I mean, it works for them because they're maybe not wanting to take on full-time team members, but they want those services to help them out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's the joy with hiring contractors. You don't have to be responsible for like having an office or the overheads or super. We manage all that ourselves.
Yeah.
And I've recently signed a new client, and when I was talking to them, especially with people who've never had like an OBM before and are a bit confused, it's also like it's less scary because we don't have to be together forever. We can try it out. I can have a 90-day like process with you and see what you need, but you don't have to think, oh my God, this is forever. Because sometimes when you go to a job and you obviously interview, then that's the contract that's going forward. It's really hard to like get out of it or to leave. But it doesn't have to be like that. It's almost like trying people on for size because you don't know. And as businesses change, your priorities might change. For example, one of my clients, we've been working together for 6 or 7 months. She no longer needs me. I've done such a good job. I've almost set stuff up so it works so effectively that she's like, I think I actually now need a VA rather than OBM. I'm like, actually, you do, because it's more of the doing you need done now.
Yeah.
So I can hire a VA and I can walk away and she can contact me if she needs help for launches or projects. And yes, it's a bit silly that I've kind of done myself out of a job, but that's fantastic because her business has shifted and her needs have changed. And I'm happy to support that. And I move on to the next client.
Yeah. Nice. That's really good. And then how do you stay motivated in your work then now?
I've recently just done my rebrand. So I've officially got my new website. I had a new photo shoot.
I saw it and I want to say it looks great. I think and when I first looked at it, I hadn't met you yet, but I think it really shows your personality. So, and it's like, I think it's really good. And so for the listeners, have a look at, it's catlouisedunn.com.
Yes.
And I think it's refreshing to kind of showcase, you're in sort of rocker t-shirts and stuff like that. Like you can, and you talk about being into horror movies and things like that on the side as well. So yeah, well done. Love
Thank you. Yeah, so I started appearing on podcasts and I thought I cannot let listeners go to this milkshake website I created years ago because I never really needed a website. And if anyone's starting a business, you don't need to focus on the website first thing. You can hold off. So I'm so glad I waited. So I spent 3 months really focusing on my brand, my website, my look. And that's really motivated me now because I feel like for the first time in my business, 2.5 years later, I feel like myself. I feel like I can show up as myself. I don't have to put on this pretense of looking like every other OBM or every other business owner. I don't want to be in a corporate suit. I don't want to have the photo where we're balancing on a kitchen bench top with our laptops. It just felt so uncomfortable and unreal to me. And when I was doing research,
I've always wondered why people aren't wearing shoes balancing on their kitchen bench top with a laptop.
Exactly. And honestly, my photographer's amazing through Aja. She's fantastic. And she did my first shoot, but I was so unprepared for the first shoot that I had that picture. I've already had that picture, so no judgment to anybody that does. I did that picture because I didn't know what else to do. But it was like, I almost, by doing personal development, by being supported by people, by working with different clients, I found the confidence to go, you know what, it's my business. I'm going to show up as me. And that's the girl who wears rock t-shirts. Like right now I'm wearing a baggy Vans t-shirt. I'm wearing baggy tracksuit bottoms. Like that's how I look. I don't wear a suit. And I don't wear a suit, but it doesn't mean I'm not good at my job. And that's what I had to break, like the pattern of that thinking, because I've had people judge me based on how I look.
Yeah.
Because I don't look like an OBM. And I'm like, well, what do you know?
What does an
OBM look like? Exactly. Like it's not like there's still such this focus on corporate and how we should look. I was at a co-working space and I'd run around in like guys' t-shirts and activewear because half the time I was running to the gym and I would get looked up and down. And
Yeah.
I was
There's
shocked because I was like, this is an open space. It should be a safe space. And I
Yeah.
don't feel
But are the men in t-shirts and caps turned backwards and trainers anyway? Like and
exactly.
tracksuit pants themselves? Like what there's this, look, I've got my red lipstick on, but that's just because I like it.
Looks great on you.
Thank you. I'm always wearing red lipstick. Is what saved me during COVID, actually.
Oh,
Like just I like I feel like I'm ready to go if I put on red lipstick. Like
okay.
do you know what I mean? I don't feel, and do you know what? It's the saying my mum had when I was younger, like put on a bit of blusher. I've got blusher on too. Put on a bit of blusher and a bit of red lipstick and you'll be right. Kind of like
Yeah.
if you're not feeling good, that bit of a mask. But I was going to say, the men would have been in their tracksuits and their t-shirts and their caps, or were they more kind of dressed up in blue shirts and?
Well, I think the problem with my co-working space is it stopped being so many business owners and started being more employees, and a lot of them, wear suited and booted, so to speak, and that's fine. But I just thought, oh my God, I'm so sorry that you trapped in that cage. But also, some people want to wear that, and that's absolutely fine because you can wear whatever you want. It doesn't change what you know or your knowledge. I was at an event last night and we were talking about that because the invite said dress to impress, and I felt so uncomfortable, and I was stressing, looking at my wardrobe, going, I don't own a dress, I don't have anything fancy. And I thought, well, actually, I'll just go in what my version of dress to impress is. And it was absolutely fine. There was no judgment. No one looked me up and down. No one said, oh, you can't come in. So I'm still trying to unwork that belief of like, I can show up and be a successful business owner regardless of what I'm wearing or how my hair. I wear my hair in bunches because it's short. It's fun. Like, who cares? It's just my hair.
Yeah.
So basically, bringing that website to life and kind of like having my social media be more in line with that and my voice like that, it's motivated me to go, okay, cool. Because now when I attract clients in, I'll attract clients who just think it's amusing that I love horror, or they love horror themselves, or will actually work with me regardless of how I dress based on my expertise. And it took me 2.5 years to get there. So if anybody's struggling with that, it did take me a long time to figure out that I could do that, and it's still a work in progress, but that's what's motivating me. I get to just be myself, and this gets to be a part of my life.
Yeah, it's just accepting yourself as who you are, really.
Yeah, exactly. And I love horror. I try not to talk about it too much, but I have like a huge horror cup in front of me right now with like loads of scary faces on it. There's blood dripping down the side of it. So people might think that's weird, but I'm like, it's cool. I like looking at it every day.
I don't like horror, I gotta tell you.
A lot of people don't.
Scares the pants off me. I read what was the book with he had like a balloon, like a clown in It. I read that.
Yeah, so if you look at my cuppies right there.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I
have like a little collection behind me. I've got like It figurines and I've got like It hoodies because I love them. I think it's cute as hell, which is my strength.
Couldn't finish that. I remember going to a friend's it must have been year seven birthday, and we watched Nightmare on Elm Street.
It's 7 years old. Oh my.
No, we were in year 7. We were like,
I was gonna say, okay.
We were 12 or 13.
Oh, it's still not much better to
Crazy. It's showing how old I am too. Well, yeah, like, so, I mean, I think we've covered some really good points in today's podcast, like turn up as you are, have a go, learn to accept yourself for who you are, and then find out what you enjoy.
Yeah. That's something I'm still doing. I work with clients and I do all sorts of tasks and go, actually, does this light me up and could I do this different? And, I'm thinking about, can I bring in a VA to do some more of the doing tasks and I can focus more strategically? So you're constantly evolving, you're constantly changing. And I think you have to accept that, and it's okay. Because like you say, you try, it doesn't work, you move on.
I mean, that's the exciting thing about having your own business as well, isn't it?
Yeah. Exciting and terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. So people can get in touch with you on Instagram, I think. What's your Instagram?
Yes.
Yep.
So you can get in touch with me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, my website. And I've just tried to keep it simple. So everywhere you can find me, Cat Louise Dunn. That's across the board.
Cat Louise Dunn. Beautiful.
Well, Cat with a C.
Cat with the C. Yeah. Good advice too. Well, thank you so much, Kat, for being on the show. Just loved having you. And if anyone needs an OBM or a VA, because you're networked in as well, then check it out.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
Thank you.